Mares are having a moment in my barn, and I really love it. And I thought I'd weigh in today on the mare versus gelding debate and give you kind of my thoughts around when each one might be appropriate. I also am doing this from home on Sunday morning while I drink my coffee. I lost my voice at a horse show yesterday, so please bear with me, and hopefully I'll just get through this video and get you some good information. So there is a time-old debate about mares versus geldings versus stallions. And everybody seems to have an opinion. Everybody seems to have a thought about which one is better or worse or whatever. And if I could distill it down, the first thing I always like to remind you is that there is more variation within the types than there is between them. So there's more variation within mares. So you might have a mare that's like, I don't know, super duper agreeable, and you might have a mare that's really sassy and challenging than there is between the averages of the mare and the gelding. So whatever I say here is really like a distilled down stereotype, and you're going to know your horse best, and you're going to know best which of these is going to work best for you. And so we're just going to go based on kind of broad strokes ideas here. The thing that's even more important than whether you have a mare, a gelding, or a stallion is their base personality. So I have come to believe after 10 years of working with people and their horses and helping them to have a deeper bond and better relationship that there are four main personality types, and that some of these types are just more compatible with each other than others. If you're curious to learn more about that, I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail here because I really want to stick to the mare gelding debate. But I do have a link below for a personality quiz that will give you instant feedback about your personality and your horse's personality and whether or not you're particularly compatible. And that applies to both mares and geldings and in dairy stallions. So in general, mares tend to be a bit more opinionated. They still have hormonal cycles, so they can be a bit different day to day. And this can be challenging for some people because you can't just tell a mare what to do. You have to really encourage and sometimes persuade her into doing what it is that you want her to do. And you have to kind of give her a reason to want to do, to trust you. You have to earn her trust and respect. But the thing with mares is that once you earn her trust and respect, she will go to the end of the earth for you. She is completely loyal to you. Mares tend to like to have just one person. We actually are in an odd moment right now in my riding school where we have, of our 6 school horses, 3 of them are mares. So far, 2 of them are new to me, so I'm still learning them. But so far, what's that, kiddo? Why are you sorry, baby? That's okay. So far, none of them are horses that I would just put any random rider on. They really need to be matched well with their rider. And my horse, Olive, is a mare, and not everybody likes her, and she doesn't like everybody, and it's okay. That's just how things go. So they have opinions. But once you win them over, they're loyal to the end. They will do anything for you. They will work so much harder than a gelding. Geldings, in general, because they don't have the same hormonal situation going on, they tend to be kind of like big puppy dogs. Do you need a towel? Let me check on my children a moment. So geldings tend to have the stereotype of being more like a giant puppy dog. Like they kind of are like whoever's got the treat, whoever's going to be the friend, whoever's going to give the good scratches, they're like happy to be with anybody. This can be really nice because generally speaking, geldings are the same one day to the next, to the next, to the next. They're not going to be hot and cold like a mare is going to be, and they're not going to make you kind of earn that relationship status that a mare is going to make you earn. A gelding will just kind of be like, oh, you want to be friends? I'll be your friend. And they're just going to be the same with each person. So generally, geldings are great for school horses, for kids, for beginner riders, because they just don't make you work for it quite so much. And so you can kind of work on yourself with a gelding. Geldings will kind of give you the space to work on yourself and to become the better rider, where mares sometimes might be a bit offended if you are asking wrong. And then the third type that, of course, we have to give some airtime to is the stallion. Stallions are the intact male, so all geldings were once stallions. Or, if they were gelded really young, they were colts, but same difference. You have to make a gelding. Stallions are the natural effect. So stallions, I've known some really lovely ones, but generally stallions have a super high testosterone drive, And so they can, in the wrong hands with an unskilled trainer or handler, they can become aggressive. They can become unruly. And in some cases, they can even become dangerous. Of course, that's not always true. Again, I've known some really lovely stallions. If you have, let me know in the comments because I always love to hear those stories. And the people that love their stallions say that they are like the best horse they've entire life, that they're just like phenomenal. But if your stallion isn't that type, if they're more of the textbook type of stallion and not the exception, you have a lot of work on your hands. Um, they're going to try to flirt with the mares around them. So that's could be an issue. And if you have an issue where they get out or get into a mare pasture, you end up with accidental breeding. They can be very, very strong, which means that you need to be very strong with them in return. And the way that you train and handle a stallion is not quite always the same as the way that you would train or handle a mare or a gelding. And so if you're used to mares and geldings, I would recommend that you not go get a stallion. So in short, I think if you want a horse that is steady and consistent and day to day they're the same, most of the time a gelding is going to be your safe choice. If you want a horse that is fiercely loyal, that develops a really deep, loving bond with you, but that sometimes requires some back and forth conversation or some persuasion or some, ups and downs, and it's kind of a little bit more day to day, a mare is going to be fabulous. And if you want an athletic machine and you're okay with something a little bit stronger, a little bit more overpowering at times, then maybe you're ready for a stallion. But definitely heed lots of caution with that one. Maybe work with a trainer because stallions can be a lot for the wrong person. My personal opinion, I love mares. I have had many mares in my life. I love geldings too. My heart horse was a gelding, but he was kind of an exceptional gelding. And yeah, mares just, I love the relationship. I love the discourse. I love when they give me feedback. When I need to work on myself, if I have something that I'm struggling with, I'll often go grab a school horse who's a gelding and go drill it over and over and over again. Most of the mares I know don't like to be drilled over and over and over again. They're going to be like offended by that. They're going to be like, why are we doing this so many times over and over and over? Like, I get the point. I understand now. Like, what are we doing here? And so generally speaking, a mare needs oh, they just need more from the relationship. They need you to give them more. And a gelding is a little bit more like they're just going to give everything to you. And both are totally okay. I have clients who are like, I don't want to feel like I have to work at the barn. I want this to feel like an escape from my life. A gelding is your goal. I have clients who are like, I have these goals. I want to work toward. I want a really deep, intense bond with my horse. Mare all day long. I would recommend a mare. The other challenge with mares is that sometimes just, I think, probably a product of domestication and their diet and how we use them and how we've bred them through time and all these things. Some of them, their heat cycles can be really, really, really intense. My mare right now, actually, I'm taking her to the vet this week to find out what's going on. But every time she goes into heat, her back spasms and it causes lameness throughout her body. And she goes into heat every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, we have to take like 4 to 5 days off of riding because she's uncomfortable in her body. And so I'm going to go find out kind of what my options are. There's a lot more options now than there used to be. And figure out if we can maybe come up with some kind of diagnosis for her and start treating her for that. But that can happen with mares. And sometimes one season to the next is different. Or sometimes if there's a foal on the ground nearby, that makes a difference. Or sometimes, who knows, they age and it changes or whatever. And so I think just knowing that sometimes with the mare, they have a cycle and that can be really uncomfortable for them, just like it can be for people. And in some cases, it's not a problem. I have a couple of mares you don't even know when they're cycling because it really doesn't make a difference. And a couple mares that it really, really does. And I am kind of the theory that like when I also have friends and employees and a sister and myself, and we all have very different cycles also. And some of us, when we're cycling, need to rest and take time off because we are in so much pain. And these are sometimes really, really tough women with really high pain tolerances. They still can't manage their daily life when they're cycling. And so If that's the case with people, I figure that there's probably also horses that are the same. And so any horse that seems to be in a lot of pain or discomfort when they're in their heat cycle, or in the heat phase of their cycle, I just choose to give them that time off. It's usually only a day or two that they really need off, and then they're fine to go back to work. But I just think if I would make an employee or my sister or a friend show up for something when they're in that much pain, I'm not going to ask a horse to do the same. So that's kind of my broad strokes thoughts on mares. And please let me know your thoughts because I'm always so interested. If you are new to horses and you're interested in learning more about them, I have a whole playlist that I'll link here about your first horse. And until next time, make sure to hug your horse for me.